Now.
All right, I'm going live. Just keep
we're
talking
live.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, no pressure. Just keep talking. I'll just keep on talking. No. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, no. Welcome everybody to the 26th episode of UBI. We're super excited. We made it past 25. We wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Joke's on you, we still alive. Shout out to Kanye West. But today we've got a special guest. We've got Hannah Trav, who is a 3L at Temple, but also a very funny comedian in the Philadelphia comedy scene. So Hannah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we've never met. I don't think. Well, we've met in person like maybe once or twice, I think. But I think we've probably seen each other more virtually because,
you started stand-up not long before COVID, is that right?
Yeah. So,
how long have you been doing stand-up, Hannah?
7 years. So I did my first set ever back in 2012, and then took me a little while to get comfortable coming back out. I don't know if you know much about the year 2012, but it was not hip to be nice to women back then. It was not trendy to be an ally. So it was a little intimidating. There were no women. I think there was one other woman at the mic I went to. And then I was a senior in college. So once I graduated, I started up properly, March of 20 whatever was 7 years ago, 2014.
So
okay.
No, yeah, that's right. No, 2014.
Let's see, 7 years ago was 2014. So you started
That's
March
7.
of 2014. Okay.
That's right. Thank you.
How did the first set go?
Well, my first set ever back in 2012 was 1:30 a.m. at Raven, and was fine. It was not good. It was not. I didn't want to die afterward.
Right.
It was just because I've wanted to be a stand-up comedian truly my whole life. So it was one of those moments where I just had to rip the Band-Aid. And yeah, I just remember leaving and being okay, that didn't kill me, then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then I bombed a lot in the beginning, the actual beginning, once I came back and started. And, was just trucking along, and definitely had some jokes I wouldn't never write now.
Wait, I want to
for many reasons.
I want to hear them.
No. I mean that for just purposes of not only my own skill or life experience, but also let's dive into it. Racially insensitive, stuff like that, where you don't,
that could get you canceled today.
Well, I don't even know. That's fun. Oh my gosh. Maybe it would have gotten me canceled. Certainly the things I thought and knew at 24 changed, not only with maturity, but with the way the world changed. So I'm happy to say that other than the last year of COVID, I did some outdoor shows. I haven't been comfortable to do any indoor shows, but because I'm not vaccinated yet, and I'm also just not trying to get COVID. But before that, I can say happily that law school actually helped me become an even better writer. I was feeling good the couple years before law school. Things had picked up for me as far as comedy, and I was getting more opportunities and all that. But as far as material, I just really think the entering into your late 20s, now I'm 30, / law school / world changing, just all of those things kind of came together and actually really helped my comedy. So I miss it so much. It is a hole in my heart, if I'm being honest.
That's understandable. As you get older, you have more of a perspective on who you are. Obviously the world changed, but also you're kind of coming into your own. And I think, with the whole going to law school, it definitely helps with writing. It's definitely, it's very similar, I think. Well, I mean, we both do it, so I love how you're
I can't see how it's the same. Well, I was a philosophy major in undergrad, and I do think that helped
See,
me
that
become
makes more sense. Manny just making shit up, like
No, it's the
No,
structure of like
I'm
building
just
an
kidding.
argument is like building a joke. A punchline is a conclusion.
Exactly. It's like
I
the
think
Iraq, but like funny at the end. Like
exactly.
IF or something like that. I don't know.
No,
Or IAP. Punchline at the
IAP.
end. Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think I told Manny this a couple of episodes ago that remember I started watching more comedies on YouTube like Whitney Cummings and just random folks. I mean, during the pandemic, what is there to do, right? So I just started watching, and then I thought to myself, I'm like, this whole comedy thing, it's one of those things where, at least for me, I have delusions of grandeur, right? Like I feel like,
Sure.
and I recognize that. But when I see when I see Dave Chappelle on the stage, I'm always like, I can do that. Like, sure, why not? But,
Good luck. Although I guess it's better for you to say that than for me to be like, I see Dave Chappelle
true.
and I'm like, I could do that.
Oh, that's
Exactly.
easy. That's actually what made me.
It's kind of
that's why I got in it. I saw him and I was like, I could do way better than that. So that's why I started.
I guess I'm speaking more substantively. Like if I was like, let me take on what Dave Chappelle's taking on, now everyone would be like, no, please don't. You've learned nothing.
Let me start adding the N-word into my routine a little bit more. I think that will really be good.
Guys, I've grown enough that I know.
Yeah, March 2014, sure, but this Hannah doesn't. Yeah. But
so I mean, but I'm also the kind of guy that I'm like, oh, LeBron James did that, or sure, like I could play the. Funny story. There was a time when I quote unquote was gonna try out for the NBA, but anyway, story for another day.
I think he can do anything. By the way, one time I came home and there was just a violin in our living room. He's like, "Oh yeah, you didn't know I played the violin?" No, and I don't think you do. I can see him picking it up. I'm like, this can't be that hard. I've heard enough Beethoven. I think I got
so
this.
funny.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm that guy. Like
Yeah.
I know that I can do it, but I'm not afraid to try anything. Like to make, like I just don't know any better. But anyway, so when I think I told you, man, right? Like I thought about just the whole process of writing a joke. Like especially, it's one thing because as a joke consumer, is that a thing?
Yeah,
you just made it one, and those are two words that make sense together.
Exactly. So
also, I would love more joke consumers to exist. So let's make that a thing. Yeah, let's make that. Is that on the commodities market? No,
exactly.
Sorry, that was a law joke.
We can trade it.
It's all good.
So as a joke consumer, you don't think much about what it means to. So I've never really thought about it deeply until then. I was like, okay, let me try my hand at writing a joke. Not because I want to do comedy or whatnot, but just because I wanted to experience how hard or how easy it is, like whatever that means.
And maybe be better at it than Manny? Was that a goal?
He did see me and was like, okay, if Manny can do this,
I'm
getting it. That's reasonable.
I'm commenting on your dynamic thus far.
Exactly. If Manny can do it, me.
That is his attitude, though. I will say he seemed to like one of my sets, so I appreciate that. Actually, I first saw you, Hannah. You and I did a virtual mic together, like in late 2020. And
I'm sure I did well on that.
It was funny. I thought.
I thought it was funny.
I mean, it's social. Virtual stuff's obviously like very different, but as far as virtual stuff, it was good.
All right, I'll take
it. Yeah. So funny enough, I was thinking like when I logged on now, I was like, I feel like I know her, just because I've heard these jokes. So, but anyway,
love it.
And I mean, I tried writing a few things, and I was like, and that's kind of like when I was like, writing a joke is actually one thing. Going on stage and delivering it. That's a different ball game, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, and when obviously you guys have been doing it for some time now, especially you, Hannah, like maybe you don't, I don't hate public speaking, but I don't love it. So
It's better than most people. I think most people hate it. So if you're
Yeah.
just like kind of like about it, that's not
yeah,
that bad.
I do get nervous, but once I start talking, I'm fine.
By the way,
Yeah.
that's everyone. I still think, right? Hannah, do you still get after 7 years? Are you still nervous after sets, or does it depend on?
Before sets, you mean?
Yeah.
It depends on the show. Totally depends on the show. If it's like a contest or if it's something where I think I need to do well or really want to do well, then I might be a little nervous, but not in the same way that I was in the beginning. Although I will say I have both delusions of grandeur and delusions of anxiety where like it's like I don't think that's a term, but I'm coining it.
Hey,
where
coining new terms.
yeah, right? Isn't that what lawyers do, or at least philosophers do? They just make up stuff. Yeah, I think that for me, I think I couldn't have gotten to where I am in stand up without a little bit of that, like, yes, I should totally be here and I totally know what I'm talking about. But on the flip side, the anxiety piece in some ways in stand up has actually like motivated me more because I'll be anxious about something and I don't know if you guys ever experience anxiety, but you have to like compartmentalize your mind in a way that I feel like stand up, like it's just easy to hyper focus on it. Like it's not something where like if I'm anxious before a set, it's like, okay, well, I know how to manage my anxiety and that just means putting my full focus into this. So yeah, I don't know if that really if I really get nervous in the same way. And I feel like even when I used to get more nervous, once I got up there, like you said, it was like, okay, cool, I'm here. That said, if I'm actively bombing, I don't even get nervous during that anymore. I haven't bombed like in the same way I did in the beginning in a while, but I certainly have bad sets. And like, I think that I used to get way more nervous in the midst of a set that was going poorly than I do now. Now I'm just kind of like, all right, what's wrong with you guys? Because like these jokes are pretty freaking good.
Oh, well, I guess especially if you've like done the jokes before and they've worked. So you're like, this is, like it's been tried out. I guess in the beginning, like you're just trying to throw everything up against the wall. You have no idea. You have no concept of like, if it's a bad room or, if you're messing it up or whatever. It's so I think I'm assuming you get better. I mean, I'm still relatively new in it, but I feel myself even getting better just like reading rooms. I still always blame myself just to err on the side of like I fucked up.
Yeah, you should.
I'm never like, oh, it was definitely the audience. I'm like, no, there's always something I could have done better. I feel like if Dave Chappelle walked in there, he could have figured that out.
I agree.
But people, I was just gonna say, but people know him and are rooting for him. So he definitely has the skills to figure it out, but also he's not going to experience that in the same way. Like once you start having people who are on your team, like for example, I did an hour at Good Comedy Theater in January of 2019, and it was the best feeling because everybody there was buying a ticket to a show with my name on it and was like, oh yeah, just tell your jokes. Some of them knew my jokes. Some of them had seen me do 5 minutes and were like, let's see what an hour is. And of course, I don't do anything halfway. So it was like pretty well polished and like prepared. And that feeling of like, oh, everybody's here. And they knew I was going to be on the show. They knew this was my show. That's, I feel like the Dave Chappelle thing where like, he could say something that's less funny. I mean, he probably wouldn't. It's probably more funny, but he has that like, that name recognition.
That makes sense.
But also, he's probably better than both of us at comedy, I would assume.
I would say. Just because he's been
not to lie, though.
Well, the thing is, hell, definitely not me. The thing with Dave Chappelle, though, is I feel like he could just walk into some place and just say, hey, everyone, and everybody goes,
There was a point, though, where it was cool to hate Dave Chappelle. I remember like when Dave Chappelle started coming back in like 2014, 2015, I had friends who had seen him and they're like, oh, he sucks. He's not funny anymore. Like people. So there's also that too, where it's like, you're really funny. You think you're funny. Make me laugh. And that's not a good space. Like, sure, if it's a Dave Chappelle show, but if he's like at like a, it's hard to imagine people not being excited to see him. But like, I swear, like a couple, like 6 years ago, it was like cool to like hate Dave Chappelle. You kind of almost wanted to see him bomb, and like someone like you would like revel in that lie. You'd be like, I saw him, he wasn't that good. Yes, you would.
No, if it wasn't good, I would say it wasn't good. So that's the thing. So what I was gonna say was, it's also possible that it wasn't good, like, you know, because it was going through stuff at the time, and who knows, like it just, at least from what you read or hear in news reports or whatnot, it just seemed a little, I don't know, maybe unstable or whatnot. Like it just seemed like he was going through a lot. So it was also possible that he wasn't, you know, whatever he was doing wasn't good. I actually heard some interview we made at some point, like actually not too long ago, where he was talking about the process of making a joke or doing a special or something like that, where it would go into like some back alley type maybe clubs or something like that. And I think he was saying, if I remember correctly, he was saying it will bomb sometimes. Some of his jokes will bomb. So I wonder even if this is what he was doing at the time, trying out new stuff. And during that process, obviously, maybe things are bombing, which is fine.
Right.
if you're trying to put together, I don't know, a special or whatnot, but people are coming out and making a big deal out of it. So I think these days he actually said, you know, when he goes to do that, I don't know if you guys do this as well, but there's something about they don't let people record something or, you know, bring in their phones or something like that. So I mean, so that's
because he's still in the process of working on it. But I will say Dave Chappelle's bomb is a different bomb than my bomb. Like, you know, 75% of the people laugh and is like a bomb, and like mine is like, you know, loves.
What I actually, there are times when I will watch people that are trying to be funny, and I'm cringing like
right now.
You know, like even these are people that maybe I don't even care about at all. So there is this guy on Fox News called Greg Gutfeld, I think that's his name. He has a new show, and this guy was trying to be funny. This is like a new show on Fox News, and I saw, maybe I should put out of why you guys.
Is this the clip that was shown on the Daily Show with Ronnie Chang?
I don't know.
Was he like making fun of like people in Chinatown? Do you know what I'm talking about?
This is Neil.
Okay. I don't know. But
this is Neil. But anyway, you guys continue to talk. I'll pull it up, and you know.
Okay, so Hannah, so you said you want to be a comedian your whole life.
I was going to ask about that.
So kind of, could you like walk us through like do you remember the moment when you were like, oh man, I want to do that? And like who it was or whatever you were watching that made you, what was that like?
So I started with Saturday Night Live. My parents like didn't censor me, and so they just let me watch whatever. And I have an older brother. He like had all the VHS tapes, like the Bad Boys of SNL and like, you know, Chris Farley's Best Moments. This is like before they did the DVDs. This is before DVDs. But this was before they did the DVDs like best of, but they had all these like VHSs that they would release with like compilations. And so it started there. And I remember I had to be like 8 or 9, and it clicking to me that this was like their job, that they got paid to do this. And that was like, blew my tiny mind. I was like, what? I wrote my law school admissions essay about this, by the way, because this is like, when I tell you like, this has been my dream forever. My mom and dad, the night I tried stand-up for the first time, left me a note on the stairs because I was like, don't ask me about it unless I offer information. And like, of course, I got home at like 3 a.m. They left me a note on the stairs that was like, no matter what happened, you finally achieved your dream. They're so great.
That's amazing. They're just like an anti-suicide note. Like, please don't kill yourself.
Well, I mean, I also did struggle with some mental health stuff as a kid. So I think everyone was just like pretty hyped that I like made it to this point. They were like, yeah, do that, do comedy, just like, you know, keep going. No, I was fine at this point. But so it started with SNL. I became very quickly obsessed with that. Like, and then of all the comedians, okay, wait, let me just say this. I knew about stand-up before I realized what stand-up was, because we would listen to records of like now disgraced Bill Cosby and other such artists that my dad had. And I just don't think it clicked until, are you ready for this?
That's right.
Dane freaking Cook. My brother brought home, I had to be like 13.
Who is that?
Yeah. Oh, he's so you want to say who he is?
Dane Cook is a comedian, and he was huge back in the early 2000s, like blew up, stadium tours, everything. Definitely got in trouble for joke thievery from Louis C.K., but
alleged,
but also like put stand-up in this, like, I mean, really put stand-up at the forefront. I mean, and that's why he was someone to me that like super bro-y and kind of douchey, but silly, and definitely had some solid bits. But I mean, for me, watching his special, I just remember being like, this looks like the coolest job ever. Like, it's just him on stage as himself, by himself. I want to do that. I want to be funny as Hannah. That's like where it clicked. I was like, I don't want to be playing characters. I want to be me. So that was like my peak interest. And then I would try to write jokes. I would do like little skits at school, but I wasn't like, I didn't like have friends, you know? So your listeners can't see me do air quotes. I didn't like have
they
friends.
heard it. They heard it.
Yeah, they heard it. And so I just didn't really like, I was never like class clown style, like, I mean, I was like outgoing, but gregarious like that. I was a little more reserved, and would just watch comedy. I would just take in any comedy that I could, and especially stand up. So yeah, that's my story.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Dane Cook. I like Dane Cook. I mean, I know there's a lot to make fun of there and people will judge it, but I remember being in high school, college, and watching some of his bits, and they were really good. Like, I remember he had a bit about crying.
Oh my God, I love that joke.
That is like maybe the funniest joke ever. At least
I did my best.
yeah. Hello? Yep. Hey, bro, what's going on? Yep. No, I'm good. Like, and him just like crying and I did my best over and over again. Like, you know, he had really like long form, like kind of like storytelling jokes, and they just seemed like bigger than life. So it's funny when people were like, "Oh yeah, Dane Cook."
So where is he? Like,
he's
that's the thing is, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to him. It's like he was huge in like, you know, early 2000s to mid 2000s. He was in a couple of movies that didn't do well, and then he got accused of joke thievery from Louis C.K. I'm trying to think. Was there anyone else who said he stole jokes, or was it just Louis?
I don't know. I only remember that because Dane Cook made an appearance on Louis. By the way, Louis C.K. is terrible and he's awful. But I used to watch the show, his show Louis, and Dane Cook was on an episode, and they like address it. I mean, it's all like, it was obviously scripted, but like they address it where like he's like, listen, man, I feel like maybe you heard my joke and it got into your head. It was like the itchy asshole joke. Wait, can I swear on here?
Yeah, you can swear on here.
Cool. It was the itchy asshole joke. And he was like, I feel like, Louis was like, I feel like at some point you like probably heard my joke and you didn't mean to steal it. And they kind of have this like back and forth. So I don't know. I don't know what he's up to now. I feel like I Googled him because I told this story for a show at one point. I did a virtual show at the beginning of Zoom about like crushes. And I told this story about how I had this like almost like, I don't know if it was like a romantic crush, but I got like very into him. And so I remember Googling him for that. I think he does stand up or whatever. I think he's like doing fine, but I don't think
he's just not like selling out Madison Square Garden.
Right.
But he's, you know, he can sell at a theater and stuff. And I think he's fine too. He's just not. He was just the hot guy for the moment, and then it just kind of like a couple of missteps, I think, and then he just kind of like fell out of the limelight and was taken over by like Kevin Hart or something. But you know, now Kevin's the guy. We'll see how long. I mean, it's lasted forever, and it might. I think it will last for the rest of my life. Kevin Hart will be the guy.
Kevin Hart is so funny.
Yeah, he's also hilarious, and people. There was a time when people hated on him. I don't know where we're supposed to hate him. I'm talking about comedically.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are with that, but I respect him. I think he's hilarious. Kevin Hart has one of the funniest jokes about cursing I've ever heard, and I watch it over and over again.
My thing with Kevin Hart is I feel like he overly dramatizes like that kind of. I don't know. Like I one of the reasons why I love Dave Chappelle is it just seems so sometimes. It just seems like he's chilling. Like you know, sometimes it could just be like it seems to be like some crackhead that you will, you know. It gives this feeling of like I don't know if that was.
Seems very loose. He seems
like
so loose on stage, like a level of like comfort that I don't see in anyone.
Yeah, like sometimes he would just start smoking.
He's cool as shit. That he really knows how to look cool doing comedy.
Yeah.
He's like mastered that. I don't smoke. I think smoking is disgusting, and it will. It's obviously ruined his voice and kind of his face. But he looks cool as shit doing it. And I can't act like he doesn't. So
for sure. I feel like with anyone like Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, who comes to mind for me is damn it, what's his name? He's very popular. He just hosted SNL this year. Bill Burr. Those are people for me that are the greats. And so Bill Burr is not for me. He makes me anxious. He's just yelling about things. It's just not for me. But he's one of the best comedy writers ever. I mean, he's just one of the best comedians ever. I would never, I guess for me, I try not to be a hater. And it's like, unless someone is like, does something egregious or is clearly famous for no reason other than, like if their jokes totally sucks. One person I can say proudly that I do not like, and you can't convince me otherwise, is Elijah Schlesinger, because I don't know if you know this, I've never really been a fan of her jokes. And she had a very, very shitty quote attributed to her in an interview where she said, essentially, all these female comics just sound the same. I can walk into the Improv and close my eyes and it won't make a difference. She's like, I'm the only woman out there with a World War II joke. Like, what does that even mean?
What does that mean?
First of all. Second of all, local comedian Cassandra D has a whole World War II joke. So that right out the gate.
I know so many women just in the local comedy scene. Like, what do you? Okay.
Yeah.
What is the World War II? I mean, is that the literal World War II joke?
So
I think she's trying to say that women only talk. She was like, they're just trying to like get men to like them and talk about sex and like all this stuff. And I just thought, and then she was like called out on it by a bunch of comedians. Like I remember Chelsea Peretti tweeted this picture of Eliza Schlesinger, my favorite.
She's amazing.
Her special is like, it's called One of the Greats in both in jest and like, yet it's literally true. It's one of the best specials ever.
Funny. For those who don't know, that's Jordan Peele's. Jordan Peele and Chelsea are like two comedic minds that came together.
Yeah. I'm glad you stopped yourself from saying Jordan Peele's wife. She's also got a lot of other fucking credits, Manny. Okay.
She's who I think is funnier than, no offense, Jordan Peele. I mean, he's not a stand-up.
Yeah, he doesn't do stand-up. She is insanely funny. But what was I saying before that? I was saying about
you were talking about women who were responding. Or just comedians who were responding to.
She tweeted a picture of Elijah Schlesinger in like a comedy sketch vagina costume and was like, is this a World War II joke? But yeah, so people like came for her on Twitter and then she doubled down and was like, I totally support female comedians. I take them on tour with me. And it's like, okay, but you essentially just bought into the whole trope of like, people think women aren't funny, but I'm a funny woman. And I also think women aren't funny, but they have to be like me, like that kind of shit. And, so yeah, can confirm, do not like her. No joke she tells is going to change my mind just for sheer virtue of her talking shit on female comedians, which I happen to be one. And I happen to tell both unrefined and refined jokes about a myriad of topics. So I refuse to be. Listen, also, if women want to tell sex jokes, who cares?
Right.
There's probably some really good ones.
Like, there's a whole like, because women have been so wildly underrepresented like in stand-up, and there's like a whole like world that hasn't even really like, I feel like there's so much more to be tapped into. I feel like we've kind of got enough of men's perspective on like
amen.
What's wrong with sex jokes though? Like
that's the thing. She tells them that was the whole point of her saying the audacity for her to be like, oh, everyone's just telling sex jokes. And I hated that line. I could walk into the Improv and close my eyes and not know, like, it's all the same kind of shit.
I mean, the question is, are people listening to them? Are the people laughing? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Making people laugh. I mean, my thing is like, that's first of all, that's like comedy is going to have a certain level of hack in it just because everyone's kind of like, a lot of people have parallel thinking or whatever, or like everyone's trying to like, some people are like, imitating other people, or you just kind of get influenced by other people. So that's not like a black thing or like a woman thing or like a gay, like it's like a comic thing. Like there might just be like certain themes that you hear a lot because people, think that's funny.
Because people sex jokes, I think, dating jokes, I think people react to them.
How many start off like with a breakup? You know what I mean? Like that's such a common trope.
Also, I've had some crazy breakups. Like I would write about them anyway, but I then had like a string of like ridiculous things happen to me that I was like, how would I not write about that? Like when things happen in it's whatever makes you laugh. And I have traditionally been the most productive post breakup, as far as like, just getting shows and writing. And that was before law school. And then in law school, I had one particular breakup that was just like ridiculous, that like, that was right. And then I got booked for my hour. And so I had all winter break to like work on these jokes about my breakup. And I'll tell you guys that story. Do you want to hear that story real quick?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Yeah, I'll tell it really quick. You guys are going to love it. I did not intend to, but this is great. So I was dating this guy and it was going well. We were getting along. And then so right before my 1L fall finals, my first semester of law school finals, he went to visit his aunt in Belgium. Okay. And while he was gone, I found out he never left Pennsylvania. He was in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Is he even Belgian?
No. His aunt really does live in Belgium.
Are you sure? Are we sure about that?
Well, who knows at this point? But I think she does. I think she does really live in Belgium. She actually played professional basketball over there and then like stayed.
All right, this is definitely made up at this point.
No. That part. He was very tall, so that part is believable. Okay. That he had a family.
I don't know if height means anything. Anyway, go ahead.
But he had, unbeknownst to me, decided not to go visit her and never left the country. So how hilarious is that, first of all?
Okay, so wait. There's a lot to unpack, right?
Yeah. I'm sure it's hard because now that Manny will understand what I mean. Now that I said that premise, I'm like, damn, the best parts of the story I already wrote into jokes. So now I don't know how to deliver it.
I mean,
I ask questions because it is as ridiculous as it sounds.
As you were telling this story, what I was thinking in my head is, I've heard, some comedians before tell a story about maybe whatever happens. Who knows if it really happened or they just make it up. But nevertheless, where I'm actually dying to like,
this is real.
Ask a follow up. Like, so. I mean, they would tell the joke a certain way it's funny, but I want to ask a follow up. Like, why the hell did he do that?
Like I couldn't make that up. Like there's some stuff in my stand-up that like something will happen and I might combine two moments together to make it up. No part of this is made up. And then, and so I found out on Instagram because his roommate posted that they went to a flea market in America.
Oh my God.
This is such a dumb lie.
The day, I know. Also, like, I'm a genius. Like, I think most people would have like sniffed out the truth, but also like, I'm about to be a lawyer. Like, do you know how many details I ask for and like how my brain works? Like, you're stupid. And I am not. So
to be fair, I'm not saying it was dumb on your part not to ask follow-up questions. It's so dumb for him to make up this particular lie. Because it's like, also, why would you think someone would lie about that? If you're in this is like, okay, you have a grandma in or whoever in Belgium.
Yeah.
All right.
Did he need time off? Like, I mean,
was he with someone else? What was
well, who knows?
Well, yeah.
I don't think so. Only because his roommate, both of his roommates did not know, like, really liked me and would not have let him do that. You know what I mean? Like if they had wind of him cheating on me, I think they would have been like, what the fuck? But they didn't know I thought he was in Belgium. So that was the thing. So I messaged his roommate and they were like, because they posted about him going with them to this flea market. Yeah. And I was like, hey, just want, and also I should mention, like, my final memo for my legal writing and research class was due like the day he got back. But like he didn't obviously leave. So I found this out. So it was due that Monday. I found this out Sunday morning and just was like in the library crying, like, what the fuck, where's my... Oh, and the best part was I sent him the post on Instagram and was like, are you in America? And he saw it, but then didn't reply. And I didn't have WhatsApp downloaded to my phone at the time, but apparently he tried to WhatsApp me. I saw it like days later to be like, hey, thinking of you. Like, do you know how stupid you have to be? If you have WhatsApp, you have Instagram. I message my cousins in England on Instagram. You don't go to Europe and have WhatsApp, but not Instagram.
I actually did not know that. Well, actually, I guess
It's
the last
internet.
time I used WhatsApp, Instagram didn't own WhatsApp or whoever.
No. It's not the owner thing. It's not ownership. I'm saying like functionally, like if you don't have your phone number, if you're in a foreign country with your phone, but it's connected to Wi-Fi.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Then WhatsApp and Instagram are both going to work. Right. So how stupid are you? Yeah. So then I was like, after it kind of this shock hit me, I was like, no, not in my house, you know? So right. I messaged his roommate that Tuesday morning because apparently he was supposed to get home Monday night and very strategically was like, hey, do you know when his flight gets in? Because like, you know, I just haven't heard from him. I was worried. And they were like, he's going to call you today. And I was like, okay, thanks. And then like kind of alluded to me like, yeah, I was like, I just don't know what's going on. Of course, I knew he hadn't been in Belgium, but then they confirmed it for me. So I sent him a text. I was like, you can't effing ghost me. I'm your girlfriend. And he was like, my flight just landed. Now, meanwhile, his roommate had just told me that he got in last night and would be calling me today. So then I tell them that and they're like, yeah, I don't know how to help him here. I never said any of this to you, but maybe go look at my Instagram post. And I was like, I knew it. So he like begged me not to break up with him. Please, I'll do anything. He came over. I'll make you dinner all throughout finals. I was like, all right, fine. So I knew we were going to break up after. I knew it.
Yeah,
like, I'm going to break up with him, but like, I don't have time.
I do need that. I'm not going to, that's a great offer.
Why not?
You don't turn that
down. Yeah, I don't have time for this right now. So I get through finals and then like my dad had like a heart attack. He was fine. He's fine. But like 2 days after that. So I was also like, I'm not trying to go through a breakup, but like deal with this all myself, whatever. So I finished finals and I did buy him a Christmas gift because I'm nice. And I bought him this painting from like a friend of mine. And, you know, we go to this like Christmas party together. But again, I'm like, after the holidays planning to break it off. And then anyway, long story short, day after Christmas, we end up breaking up. He comes over. I'm like, you're an idiot, whatever. But I did say to him, like, if you want your Christmas gift, you can have it. So he's like, I brought yours too. Now he had told me we can't exchange before Christmas because yours is in the mail. Okay. This motherfucker hands me one bath bomb. A single bath bomb.
What is a bath bomb?
Yeah, I vaguely have an idea.
The grocery store, okay? They go into.
It's like where the gum is. It's just like a quick purchase.
It's like it's like a little thing you put into the like bubble bath kind of thing. Yeah, and he tried he's like, yeah, this. I was waiting for this to come in the mail. Like you clearly. And he had that Christmas gift or that Christmas party we had gone to was like a gift exchange. And he used the box that he had gotten a gift in front of me to put this bath bomb and give it to me. So I bring this all up to say he left my house and I immediately wrote a joke. I texted my brother and I said, I still tell this joke. I said, you're not supposed to get your girlfriend the same gift you'd get your child's elementary school teacher. And my brother's like, haha, you're so funny when you're sad. And then the next day I texted my friend who's an elementary school teacher and I was like, just out of curiosity, did any of your students get you bath bombs this year? And she's like, yeah, I got 3. Why? And I was like, because I'm fucking hilarious.
That's great. That is. Yeah. How long were you dating this person beforehand? Before you broke up?
Like 4 months. We had actually known each other for a long time and like had kind of dated for like a minute and then, you know, like years ago and then reunited and dated. I was like also not trying to have a boyfriend and he was like very much like, let me do stuff for you. He came to the like family and friends day at law school and like all this stuff. It was crazy. Yeah, no loss on my part though, really, honestly.
No,
I was
I
like,
think you won.
Peace. Yeah. Well,
you got dinner and
yeah,
for your during finals and
and a bath
a joke out of it.
Oh, and I did call him later on. I got like a whole bunch of bits out of it. Because the other thing that was so funny to me about the Belgium thing was that like I remember I had just been so focused on school and he was just kind of like busy with work and kind of frustrated that right before his trip, we were both just kind of like doing our own thing. Like we were talking and stuff, but the night before he came over and I remember being like, I haven't seen you all week. Like, how can I help you get ready? Do you want to borrow my neck pillow? Now, mind you, he was 6'5", or I guess he still is. He's alive, but he is 6'5", and he was like, no, I don't think I'll need a neck pillow. And I'm thinking like, I'm tiny and my neck hurts on a plane. How is this tall guy not gonna want some sort of neck support? Like, what? That's so weird. But I didn't say anything about it. And then, and then of course later found out that's why he didn't want my neck pillow. But also the song Thank You Next came out that same weekend. And I was like, this song's a banger. And then we broke up and I was like, yes, thank God I have this song. And then she released the album. So it worked out.
Yeah, that's a good song. I wish I had a breakup, to be honest, during that song when it came out.
I know, like Driver's License. Like I'm now very happily committed in a committed relationship, but the song Driver's License, when that came out, I was just like walking around my house like, oh, I miss you so much. He's like, I'm literally in the next room. I'm like, okay, but still, let me have this.
Yeah, no, I'm.
You guys
I'm
like that song?
I don't know this song. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, this is like, okay, so this like song came out, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it like broke every record. It's like some 16-year-old, 17-year-old.
Sure I've heard it.
No, she's 18. I'm sorry. It's about her getting her driver's license and like being heartbroken. But
Olivia Rodrigo, is this right?
Rodrigo. It is seriously a banger. Actually, SNL did a sketch about like all these old men being like, why do we love this song so much?
Yeah.
It's just one of those songs that like, it's just a banger. It's super good. I'm a really big fan of Lorde, and there's like definitely some like Lorde-esque elements to the production, which I really like. I like music production.
Lorde was also very young when she came out. Wasn't she like 17 or something?
Yeah, but she's like an old woman in a
like her soul was like 58.
I know. I
like
love her.
Young woman's body.
Her second album is as far, I have like a pretty strong connection. It's just so good. I love the production is great, the writing is great, and it's just like I love a cohesive album. I'm an album person, so I'm like very into. I mean, I have my favorite artists and stuff, but like for example, Ariana Grande, I like her, but Thank You Next is the only album of hers that I like have on repeat, kind of thing. Like I don't listen to her individual. It's just whatever.
I like shorter albums. I feel like that album was shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate when people have like 35 songs on an album. It's like, you're not that good. You're just not that good where I would sit here and listen to like 40 songs in a row. But that's just me.
My caveat to that is do you guys like The Weeknd?
I mean, I haven't like listened to one of his albums. Obviously I know who that is. He's very huge.
Okay. So he's like my favorite. I've like liked him since he came out kind of thing. And with those his early EPs, like were re-released as one album called Trilogy. So it's like super long. I forget how many tracks are on it, but it's really, really long. But I just think it's like one of the finest works of art to be like each of the individual EPs were so good, but the combined together, it's just a really impressive body of work. And it's one that like, I'm like, oh yeah, I can listen to, I don't mind that that's start to finish like a long endeavor because it's just like enjoyable. I also think Taylor Swift gets away with it. She just re-released she's like re-recording her masters, and she released her album from 2008 on Friday. It's called Fearless, and she added, it was like she re-recorded the full deluxe version of the album and then added 6 songs that were like from the vault, like that she had written back during that time but never put on an album. So my point is it's ridiculously long, but for re-recording an album, I feel like it's great because you get basically like the re-recorded songs and that high school nostalgia, and then you get like new songs from that era, so it feels similar to I don't know, I can't explain it. It's been enjoyable.
I was just gonna say, I'm just thinking from the from the artist perspective, like from the business side of it. Like they're like, we're ripping these people off. We didn't even bother writing new shit. We're like releasing their old stuff. And we have people like
That's
Anna,
got a
like,
business
yes!
mindset. Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, let me release 7 songs. It's technically an album. Just have everybody buy that shit.
I mean, on the topic of Taylor Swift, though, she did release 2 albums in a year during quarantine. So I feel like at this point, it's like
I'm
it's like,
behind
just
on my Taylor Swift knowledge, though. She has had some very good songs that I have liked
yeah,
for years.
I'm a big Taylor Swift person. She's also only a year older than me and has been writing songs since she was in high school, which means she's been writing songs since I was in high school about things that like 2, you know, teenage girls are going through. Like it's very much like listening to the album, the re-recorded album yesterday or Friday and yesterday. It's just like I literally texted one of my friends from high school and I was like, remember when you went to prom with that guy you liked and like you didn't think he was gonna say yes and you asked him and he said yes? She's like, yeah. And I was like, have you been listening to Fearless too? She's like, oh my God, all day. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad it's not just me. I think there's definitely, I mean, I think she's like a brilliant songwriter and I think she's like grown. She's an interesting person to follow her career for sure. But I would say the initial hook for me came from just like her writing about how hard high school was. And I was like, oh my God, it's hard for me too. People are so mean.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, there's always a special like connection you have with people who you kind of like grew up in your formative years. I feel like that even with comedy, like, you know, certain people that like even Dane Cook, like he'll have a special place in my comedy heart because I was coming up and like kind of thinking about being a comedian, you know, versus like there'll be people in the past who I respect, but I didn't grow up on them. So it's just different.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. For sure.
So you say you were a philosophy major. Like, what was going on there?
I don't know how to answer. I don't really know what that question means. Can you
like
what was going on there?
Question.
I don't know.
What's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
No. What I mean is
like why was I a philosophy major?
Yeah. See, I have ways of talking that, you know, sometimes people are like, what are you talking about? I think Manny gets it, but
yeah, I knew what he was asking, but I also, you know, speak his.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I didn't go. I mean, I do love a good rambling tangent, but
I love rambles. Like I love when people think I said something and they just talk about something a little different. I just listen. I'm like, well, I love it because you get a lot more stuff. Right? It's like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that, but that's more interesting. Let's
yeah,
an open-ended question.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I always wanted to be a comedian. I started college as an anthropology major because it seemed interesting to me. I liked archaeology and all that stuff. Like I thought that was cool. And I was like, what will be a degree that I get? And then I planned to do an art minor. So I was like, I ended up having enough credits to do a double major in like philosophy and art. But the reason I got in philosophy was I took a philosophy class and mind you, like I was kind of in and out of religion. My family's not religious, but I mean, that's a different story for another time. But I was kind of into religion and was certainly like always a deep thinker kind of kid. Like asked my mom when I was very young, like, what happens when we die? And she was like, I'm making sandwiches. I don't know. Like, I can't, like, I was definitely that kid who like, I was just like kind of smart and wanted to ask a million questions, but was like also pretty annoying. So anyway, I took a philosophy class and my professor pulled me aside after class one day and was like, have you ever thought about like being a philosophy major? And I was like, no, what should I do? He was like, I think you'd really enjoy it. Like you seem to, you know, really take to it. Your paper was good, whatever. And so I remember going back to my dorm room, telling my roommate, who is still my best friend to this day. And I printed out the 2 graduation requirements for philosophy and anthropology and just looked through all the courses you have to take and was like, oh, all these sound better. And switched my major. That was it. That was like,
that story.
It was meant to be.
That story is funny because when I was probably like 15, I remember having this conversation with my mom about, you know, what I wanted to study in college, and philosophy and anthropology were a big part of that because they were a big part of it because I mean, the anthropology thing, a big part of that was because my dad had this library of encyclopedias. And I mean, when I was growing up, I couldn't travel, and I would read like these books over and
Yeah.
over and over. So I let my my imagination take me places, right? Like I read about Egypt and this and Peru, the Incas. Like I mean, I knew all of that stuff. I didn't learn them in school. Like I knew about them, as a teenager. I'm
Yeah.
like, that is what I want to study. And then I started reading about philosophy as well. I was like, oh my God, all these questions. Like for me, I was such an introverted kid. I had a lot of questions that were uncomfortable. Questions that scared me because I grew up in such a conservative society, right? Like questions that I'm like, you're not supposed to ask things like that. I'm like,
Like, give us an example.
I will give you an example. An example would be maybe someone will be sick, right? And they may end up they may end up passing away. And all through the while, you have people praying for them. And I'll be like, okay, why did God answer? I mean, why didn't He answer the prayer? Like, why didn't He make them feel better? You're not supposed to question God's will.
Yeah.
You are not supposed to do it. But, or why did He make him sick in the first place? Why did He have to go through this suffering?
Yeah.
He, she, whoever, whatever.
Right.
Why do we call him a he? Or why did they a he or whatever?
Okay. Well, actually, go ahead.
Yeah. But anyway, that's I mean, it's
Did you end up studying philosophy?
I did not. I ended up studying basically like information systems and then law. And yeah.
That law life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would ask those kinds of questions too. One thing that I think for me was very like I always was thinking about humor too, and I think like I had this natural desire to like I was just always very curious, and what you said about reading encyclopedias, like I would read a lot of history. I really liked history, and I feel like with anthropology, what I liked was the like still studying of history, but also the like whole cultural lens of like not I guess scientific inquiry applied to like like we would watch in class. I remember us watching, we studied evolution and all that, and we watched that was in like the I don't remember, there was like different categories of anthropology that we had to take, like the 4 core categories. One of them was linguistic, and one of them was archaeology, and the other 2, one of them was like human origins, and then one of them was like cultural stuff. I don't remember the exact references, but we were doing all this like studies of like primates and evolution in one class, and then we were doing like modern day research, watching like modern day researchers who go into these like remote villages in Africa that have never like modernized in any capacity, and allowing them to come in and settle. I'm trying to think of the name. It's with an H. I'll find it. I'll figure it out. But they're like it's like a group of people that are commonly have been like discovered and studied by anthropologists for just they're completely isolated. So it was just, that was all very cool to me, to the like historical context and then that. But then, yeah, once I got into philosophy, it was like, oh, this is how my brain works already. And of course, like they kind of they didn't push law school or anything on us, like, but they definitely like said like, well, philosophy. I remember my Cheryl Foster, if you're listening to this, I love you. She was my advisor and the head of the faculty department, and just like one of the most incredible professors and people ever. And when I met with her to switch my major officially, she asked me what I want to do long term. And I said, well, I want to be a comedian. And she was like, oh, that's perfect. Steve Martin, Ricky Gervais, they all studied philosophy. You'll be a perfect comedian. Like, so on board with it. And I was like, all right, perfect. This is great. I want to keep doing that. So yeah, it was great. I loved it. I definitely was not thinking about law school at the time, but it certainly helped with my law school. Just like the fundamental kind of stuff. I mean, it really didn't help my grades that much, but it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like I came across this term Egyptologists, right? Like people that study
Mhm.
Egypt. And I remember just thinking, I mean, this was when I was a teenager, like thinking like, who? Like I wonder if there are pyramids in Nigeria. We just haven't found it. Like I'm gonna go study archaeology and I'll be the first Nigeriologist or something like that. Like, I just had wild thought delusions of grandeur. I mean, I've had them
Yeah.
ever since. But
I was gonna say, I think there probably are archeologists in Nigeria. I don't know
I
how
know,
to
of
tell you
course
this.
they are.
Probably
No, I
working
know.
on it,
I'm
but
joking.
they
But
could use your
love
help.
the
They could've-
enthusiasm.
They could have definitely used your help as a kid.
I know. I know.
Also, I think that kind of like naturally puts us into the law school thing. What made you go to law school?
Before you ask that,
yeah.
I'm curious. What's the origin of your last name? Is it like French? Is it what? What is it?
Italian. Well,
Italian.
so my full last name is Travellini. I
Mhm.
perform as Hannah Trav for many reasons. One, my last name is very, very Italian, and I am also half British on my mom's side, and my grandparents are from England. So I grew up with more of, I would say, an English influence on I mean, I'm very American, obviously, but this is something I've been talking about in recent days after Prince Philip died, because there is a weird difference between the way I feel like most Americans see the royal family and the way that I was raised to see them. So it's just an interesting thing. Like most people don't give a shit that he died, and that's fine. I mean, also DMX died on the same day, so I get that that's like two very different people.
I don't think you could find a more different
right,
group of individuals.
Right. And I understand that once, like that for most of my American friends, it was very quickly like, fuck Prince Philip. Maybe they already felt that. Yeah.
We feel the same way about him that British people feel about Prince Philip.
Oh, trust me. I too am saddened by the death of DMX. Don't get me wrong. It just so happened they happened on the same day. But my point being that with my last name, I always felt like I wanted the freedom to not be like, I'm a pasta, when I get on stage and do stand up, like it's spelled with a silent G, so there's always the mispronunciation thing, and it just felt like also like kind of a cushion of not anonymity, but like Hannah Trav and Hannah Travellini are doing two different things, So, but yeah, my dad's family is Italian and my mom's family is British, so that's my origin story.
So when people say, like, especially in America, where they say my dad's family is Italian, like historically or more recently, like is your dad from Italy or okay, got it.
His grandparents came here.
Got it. Okay.
In early 1900s, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely like a little bit more removed from that. Whereas my grandparents, who like took care of us on my mom's side, who took care of us all the time, moved to England like right before they had my mom. And so like my grandmother from like small town England to South Philly. So,
got it.
I definitely feel like the for my mom, I mean, she was living the immigrant parent experience in a way that's I think really unique. I feel like what's interesting is like I remember talking to someone about this in comedy. I'm trying to think like when this was. We were talking about like immigrant stories, and I was like, it's funny because like my mom is the daughter of immigrants, but they're white, so I feel like it's less like it's just a different experience. But then there's some commonalities of like, yo, my grandmother, her first job was actually she was working for an Italian tailoring shop or whatever, and she was like, she had like hardly ever been to a city, so moving to South Philly is because her sister was a war bride and married a South Philly Italian who was stationed in their town during World War II, and then was like to my grandparents, like, you should come over. And my grandmother didn't really want to. She would be the first to tell you that. And my grandfather did. So she like was here just like terrified every day for like a solid year, like was afraid to go outside. But she said when she quit her first job, I mean, she was convinced this guy was in the mafia. And when she quit her first job, mind you, at like a small tailor shop, like she was a seamstress. She sat in the back. This guy probably wasn't anything crazy. He like was like, I will make sure you never work again in this town. And she was terrified. She's like, the whole night was like, the mob's going to come kill us. He's like, my grandfather was like, because you quit your job as a seamstress, you think the mafia is after us now? Like, darling, we're good. It's okay. Yeah, but it's just that was like very prevalent in our lives, and I feel like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not like, oh, I'm not Italian. Whoa, don't say that. I'm like fine with it, but I just feel like the connection when it's like a generation closer, and it's like you're cared for by these people every day when your parents are working, you like hear that's definitely more of an influence, I guess, on my life than but I'm American.
That's an interesting like immigrant story, because you feel like all British people is like, weren't you all supposed to be here like hundreds of years ago? Like, and for your grandma to come,
super poor, nothing in their pockets.
But she's British. That's funny. I mean,
England's like, I don't know if you know what happened in England during World War II, but it wasn't popping in a bad way. You know what I mean?
It wasn't really where you wanted to be. It was very lit, but not in a good way. So
and she has an interesting story. She has an interesting story too, because her mother was divorced. Like her parents were divorced in the 30s. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, she's true to form, doesn't talk about feelings or emotions unless it's like whatever. Well, I don't know the full story. I just know that part of it. And so she had a very interesting upbringing, but she grew up very, very poor, and my grandfather as well. And yeah, he was like, we got to get out of it. We got to go to America and try something new. And she was like, ew, but okay.
Yeah. Do you speak Italian or
no? But I do speak British, so that's good.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
Have you done any British jokes?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I have. Mostly. So, I'm trying to think. It's been a while. I wrote some for. I used to do a show called Your Mom Is Funny, that I hosted with my mom. Yeah, it was trademarked. No, it's about to be. Anyway,
Your Mama Is Funny.
Yeah, so it's like
you should tell the people about that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Comedians come on with their mom, so it's like a game show, but like, myself and my friend Pete Steele, and then my mom hosted it together, the three of us, and we ran it for like 5 years before COVID. Wow. At Good Comedy Theater. And actually we started before they had a theater space. When they were producing shows, we were one of their first shows, and we would like perform it, at different venues. And then once they opened the theater, we got our spot. But anyway, so 3 teams come on, mothers and children. And then we would sometimes do a dad edition for fun. And they go through 3 rounds, and like the first round's like newlywed game style. We like ask questions. We ask the moms questions. They have to guess. The kids have to guess. Second round was like, it's called Wing Mom. So we would do it like we pick an audience member, and the mom has to convince them to date their child. But the last round was the best part, which was they each wrote stand up for each other in advance, sent them to us, and we would print them out and like hand them to so like my mom and I had to fill in once because the team backed out. And so I like real quick wrote her a set, and I put a bunch of British jokes in there. That was always my intention, to like revisit them and adapt for my own stand-up, because they turned out really funny. Like just stuff about like, the typical Britishisms of like not talking about feelings and, I don't know, whatever. I would have to look at them, but.
So you said they're trying to get people to date their kids.
Yeah, you'd get like an audience member up, and then it's just like more like an improv thing where the moms can be like, here's all the reasons to date my child, but they would say funny shit. It was great. It was honestly a great show. One of my best ideas ever.
It was good.
So when we went to Shanghai, Mandy will remember this. There was this like, I don't know if we call it a flea market, but some open area where you had parents come with pictures of their kids, trying to like match make their kids, and of course. So
wait, where is this? What is this?
This was in
Shanghai, China.
Oh.
we went on a school trip.
I've been there.
Nice. When did you go?
When I was 16.
Okay.
Right before the Olympics in Beijing.
Gotcha.
Like the year before the Beijing Olympics, because I remember we went to Shanghai. It was like a high school sponsored trip that like I had lifeguarded all summer to pay for, because I was like, who knows when I'll have the opportunity to go to China again. But yeah, it was cool. Anyway, continue.
You were right.
Yeah. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
So you will have these parents. So the parents were there. Sometimes both of them, sometimes the moms. Anyway, with pictures of their kids, basically trying to like negotiate, like, oh, your kid, like, and of course, so when we walked in, I think it was just both of us were the only black guys on the trip. And I mean, you saw all of the white folks, like they got a lot of like play, like, you know, the parents trying to convince them.
One guy in particular was
Oh my
just
God.
killing it over there.
Yes, he was
And he's
killing.
I've seen his girlfriend on social media. She's Asian. I don't know if she's Chinese, but that would be funny if they met like in that park.
Wait, this was a peer of yours? Like, are you saying like
this was a white guy from America who went on the trip with us?
And oh yeah, they followed us. There was a blonde girl on our trip. I mean, I got a little bit of like, hi, how are you? But there was a girl on our trip who was like gorgeous blonde girl who was followed at every stop we went to. You would like catch like a kid, either like a teenager or like a guy a little bit older, like watching her come up. They would come up to her, give her stuff. Like, it was like really interesting. Like I was like, all right, well, I'm cute.
Like,
I guess I got a little jealous.
I know. I was like, I got a little jealous. I'm like,
yeah, right.
Nobody wants me here. Like,
yeah, it was a lot. They took pictures with him and everything. Yeah. Like it was a lot. It was a lot.
It was,
but he was loving it. He was loving it. I mean, at first he was weirded out, but after like 1 minute, he was fine, and he
rode with it. He rode with it. Like he soaked it in. It was like, yeah, like, you know, celebrity feeling, whatever. You know, the funny thing is, I actually had that feeling one time. This was a couple of years ago when I was in Mexico. I went to Mexico. I don't know who people thought I was.
They were so into you.
So into me. People wanted to take pictures with me.
That's great.
Like, people selfies and whatever. I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know what this is, like, but sure.
That's why you learned Spanish. That's why you learned Spanish. I was wondering, like, 1 year he came home and he was like, I'm really gonna try to learn Spanish. Now it all makes sense.
When I went to, we were talking earlier about, were we talking about it while recording or before recording about going to West Africa? Because I went there
before.
Okay. So when I was there, so I traveled with a family. So like I went to Ghana and we were in Accra for a while, which obviously is like a major city, very diverse. I didn't get a lot of attention walking around there. But then I was the only white person on the trip. So I was with Black Americans and with with Ghanaian people, but I was the only white person on the trip. And we went to his home village, which is like 200 miles west of Accra, but like it takes 12 hours to get there. It's very much like you get past a certain point and there's not like real roads and all that to get there. So let me just tell you, not in a fun way, felt like a Kardashian, not in a fun way at all. People would follow me, like, and they call me a brony. I don't know. So in Ghanaian Twi, that means like foreigner. Like I think kind of white foreigner, but I know it. They tell me foreigner, and I had been like given a Ghanaian name, Essie, and so everybody just called me a brony Essie. Like they wouldn't call me by my American name, but they wouldn't just call me Essie. They wanted to call me a brony Essie. So I had to be like, I couldn't walk around by myself because like, I mean, they just told me I wasn't allowed to. But the one day we walked around the whole village, and like what I loved about it was, so I had my camera with me, and everyone was like happy to pose and let me take pictures. So and of course, like I was like, I would ask permission for it. I wasn't just like snapping random pictures of people, but it was great because I now have all these awesome pictures of like an experience I'll never have again. You know, I mean, I'm not in touch with this family in the same way that I was, but I think even if I were to go back to Ghana, I likely wouldn't be going to his family home, you know, his family village. That's like, when I say off the beaten path, I mean, like there is no path. Luckily we had SUVs, but like, but I mean, one of the craziest experiences of my life. So unique. So glad I had it. But I do have all these really cool pictures because people were like, just wanted, and then of course they would ask me if I had a husband. And this one,
like, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah,
like, how many proposals did you get?
Lots of proposals. Yeah, one girl was like, "Does your husband know you're here?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not married." And she's like, "Good, I'll give you my brother." And I was like, "I'm okay."
You know, the funny thing is, that's, you know, people would do that. Really, what they're trying to ask is,
do you have money?
No. Are you married? Like, they're just trying to ask. So that when they say, "Oh, did your husband?" Really, what they're trying to get to is,
Yeah.
if you say no, they will know your status, and then so that's really.
Or one of the guys that was working for the family, they like worked for the church that I was traveling with, and he came over. It was like a group of like young guys my age came over, and we were all hanging out. And I was with my friend Matt, whose father is Ghanaian, his mother is Black American. They were both those are the family I traveled with. So, but he had been there, of course, many times before, and so he was introducing me to everyone. And, we're all hanging out. And eventually at one point, one of the guys turns to me. He's like, "Abroni Essie." And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "I've always wanted to marry a white woman." And I was like, "Cool, you should. Go for it." I'll let my friends know, I guess. Yeah, like, but he said it to me like, and then like smiled. I mean, he was also very cute, and so I was like, I gotta go, because that like in a religious context, especially, I'd gone to this church that was all West African. It's very much like you don't smile at each other unless you're trying to like court and like, so I was very mindful that I was traveling with my pastor and his wife, and that I wasn't going to be flirting with the local church kids because
you should have done it.
Yeah, now you're like, man, look at
that. Yeah, now I'm like,
no. What was I doing?
I was not married. No, I'm but I wanted to avoid any like possible view of impropriety. So I was like, "Okay, bye. Good luck finding a white wife." I was like, yeah.
I've always wanted a white wife.
Yeah, he's like, "I've always wanted to marry a white woman."
Could you imagine saying that here?
Okay.
Just like someone random.
Yeah, do you think I would get away with it just because have an accent like I come
with the accent?
like
you get
yeah,
away with
maybe
it for
you
sure.
could.
There's so much lie I can say that I cannot say, and I'm jealous. But you could totally get away with it, and then you just laugh, and it's fine.
As a white woman, I can say that line as I believe worked on me before in America. I don't want to confirm that completely, but also it did. I had a boyfriend for a long time ago from Kenya, and he said something similar to me on our like OK Cupid back and forth when I first met him, where he was like, "I like white women," and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm white.
I qualify."
Oh, and now it all comes full circle, because as you can probably imagine, this is where some of my problematic humor came from. This weird little in between of like being the only white person at a West African church gives you like this weird confidence about being in with Black people. Doesn't translate.
How the heck did you find yourself at a West African church? I mean, like when you said that earlier, I was thinking like,
what?
Did you grow up in a West African church? Like, I mean,
no.
It's one thing to go to be at a Black church, but a West African church.
Was in West Africa, right?
Yes. I traveled there every Sunday in college. So I went to University of Rhode Island, and the church I went to was in Providence. There's a large population of African immigrants in Rhode Island. And so this is like, I feel bad because we've been recording a while, and I'm going to try to condense the story as much as possible. I wasn't raised super religious. I was raised like socially religious. Like we went to church socially. My mom would regularly tell us that like every view the pastor had on gay people was wrong, that it's great to be gay, like that. She's like very liberal. So I had a near-death experience as like a teenager, and that definitely got me into a philosophical state of mind. It got me deeper into Christianity because that's the religion I knew. And so I became very interested in like what would have happened if I actually died, basically. And that's where it started, that inquiry. And I also didn't have a lot of friends, and I don't know if you know anything about church groups, but they make everybody be nice to each other. And for kids my own age were like, "Yeah, you can sit and eat lunch with us." And I was like, "All right, baptize me. Let's do it." So very much like, and that's all through hindsight, but like throughout high school, it was a community for me that was outside of school. And in college, I just had never, like, we had had this church that we went to throughout my childhood that I think my parents took us to like make the grandparents happy. It was close by, but it never was like, I always say we went to God's house, but he never came back to ours. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So in college, it was very much a priority of mine to find like a church. I really wanted to have my own church that like I was part of the community. And I went to a bunch of different churches around Rhode Island. And then I was friends with the pastor's oldest sons. They have 3 sons. And the one, Matt, I was telling you about was on the trip with me, but their oldest son, Tim, he and I were both freshmen at the same time, met at like on campus Christian, it was like InterVarsity or like one of the Christian groups on campus where I was just trying to meet people. This is like week 2 of school, I think. And so he and I just became buddies and we would, see each other out. We would eat lunch together in the dining hall, all that. And then he invited me to the church and I was like, all right, maybe. And then one of our mutual friends was going and she like texted me after, and she's a white woman. Let me add that. She's a white woman. Texted me after because I also knew like it was a West African church and I was like a little nervous. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to fit, like, will I feel okay? Because at the time too, like I was much more shy than I am now. Like I could talk to people, but the level of emotion and like hours of emotion in a church service like that, I was like not sure what I was going to be walking into kind of thing. And like, so anyway, so this white woman tells me she went to the church last week and she wanted me to come with her. And she was like, no questions asked. You have to come with me. Like, you're going to love this. And I didn't even know her that well. And she was obviously right. And then she didn't go there. She took me that one week and stopped going there, which is the like most interesting part of all this was I was like, all right, I'll go with you. And then she took me there and I of course loved it. And that was that. And then it was, God, I have no regrets about the experience. And like I said, I after many years in Christianity, by the end of college, I owe a lot of this to just philosophy and friends and just my experiences. I definitely believe in God. And I don't think that those experiences I had were where I, the Holy Spirit and all that, like it's some shit, they go hard. Really, yeah, it's not JV, it's varsity, you know what I mean, as far as Christianity is concerned. So I really actually felt like I came out of my shell a lot more. And again, like great experiences, but I consider myself agnostic now just because of what I believe Christianity has been warped into. I can't imagine that that's the way everyone's supposed to live and believe. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute to me that like there would only be one religion. So I don't know if you guys watched The Good Place, but I like in the very first episode, Ted Danson's character. Highly recommend that show, by the way. It actually, like, for someone who had a hard time like accepting that I didn't agree with Christianity after it had been such like a comfort for me. And again, I have no regrets because I was part of this amazing community and like had this super unique experience. But he has a great line that he's like, well, the Buddhists got it this much % right, and the Christians got it this much % right. But this guy in Minnesota did mushrooms one night, got it 99% right. Like, he's like laying out, he's like, it's post-death, they're in the good place. And he's like laying out like, oh, it's not actually heaven, but like, and that's what I like to think. That's my thought on religion now, is like, everyone's getting it maybe a little right, a little wrong, and just be kind to people, moral, and anyway, that was a long story.
That makes sense. And so it sounds like you kind of transitioned out of kind of like organized religion and then into organized stand-up. Is that the timeline? Did those things coincide?
Yeah. So they overlapped. I was like, the first year and a half of doing comedy, I was like telling virgin jokes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And
by the way, let us know when you have to bounce. So.
Okay. Bye. I will.
Because we can do this.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I mean, we don't have shit to do, so. Yeah.
I love when men say that to me. We don't have anything else to do. No. I guess we'll bounce soon. Give me the light. No. What were we talking about? Religion? I don't know. God, how did we start? You listen. You didn't warn me that I thought we'd be talking about Justin Bieber. I thought no, you know me. Like I'm happy.
Pete Holmes' podcast.
Yeah, the two things did overlap. So like I was getting ready to leave. Okay, so like by the end of college, I like was still going to my church because I loved all the people in the community, but I was having some serious doubts about like some of the things that were said about gay people. And in my defense, like I was very close with the head pastor's wife, and I would talk to her pretty openly about like, it makes no sense to me that this is how people believe things and that we're supposed to treat, and this is a time too where I was just being transgender people were just being more spoken about, and issues about transphobia were coming out. I remember like there was a trans person on a TV show, and I had never encountered that before. And I remember talking to someone who was telling me they were struggling with their gender identity, and just like my head exploded. I really truly, except for like Chaz Bono, I had very limited understanding, and it wasn't in pop culture. I mean, we're talking like 2012, like that wasn't being talked about in the same way that it is now. So I remember that being an issue where I felt very confused as to why that would even be a problem. Like I was just like, it's okay. I don't know. So it was all that. And then I started doing comedy. And at that point, like I had moved home to Philly and found a church here that I was going to. And it was cool. Like I liked the people, and I got involved with like helping out their college, because it was like right near Penn. So it was like a lot of college students. And I helped out with like the college stuff as like a adult / like it was grad students too. So it was around my age, and I liked it. But as I started being more and more honest with myself, I was like, this is disingenuous of me to keep going. I don't feel right doing this because I feel resentful of like some of the things they're saying to us. And, it's just like the guilt that's imparted on you from American Christianity. Well, no, I shouldn't even say that, because I went to a West African church. There was a lot of guilt there too, but just like with things like smoking weed, like I was like, who cares? But the big one for me was sex, because I think it really is damaging what the church does to young people with as far as sexual education. And I knew that. And I was also, like my mom was like, do you want to go on the pill? And I was like, no, I'm waiting till marriage. And she was like, okay, whatever.
Well, whenever you're ready. I've got it
she was
right
literally
here.
like, okay, cool. I don't know if she likes that the pendulum swung a little bit too much the other way, but whatever.
You'll be all right.
My poor mother had yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So
she sat through my hour.
yeah. And I mean, I remember the first time I saw you perform comedy was at Philly's Funniest,
hell yeah.
which is like 2019.
Where I was a finalist? Oh, 2019.
Yeah,
no, 2019.
Exactly.
I was
Say that nice and loud. Yeah,
Hannah
was a finalist in Philly's Funniest 2019, and they probably had it was like 80 comics in the beginning, or something like that. 300? Oh wow. Yeah. Oh, it's 80 this year because of COVID, I guess.
Yeah. No, I was. Also,
300.
Isn't it like starting in April?
Something weird. I don't know. I signed up for it.
No.
For those who don't know, Philly's Funniest is a local competition in Philly that Helium Comedy Club puts on, where it used to be like 300 comics would start out, and they would just have like different shows, and people would be voted to advance and all that. And so Hannah got down to the final 8.
Yeah.
And I was there and I saw it. It was great. Everybody was really funny. And I remember you brought up that you were a law student, and I was like, I was interested because I had kind of just started comedy, and I was, a lawyer trying to be a comedian, and you were like a comedian who was getting into law, or so it was interesting. But
you were like, don't do it.
What are you doing?
And I was like, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Exactly.
I need the lock on the lawyer comedian thing.
It's like, what is wrong? Yeah, exactly.
I heard you were a lawyer, and I was like, damn it, he's already there. I'm just trying to get there.
You got to just make sure you go on before me at every show.
Yeah, right.
So with that said, obviously you're a law student, and I did want to just ask you, kind of similar to when I asked you about being a comedian, when did you know you wanted to be a lawyer? What was that like?
I don't know that I want to be a lawyer.
That's the right answer.
I don't. I'll be totally honest. I definitely want to work as a lawyer. I've worked really, really hard in law school. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And like, I've bombed a lot doing stand-up, which probably is why I feel relatively comfortable with like pretty much all the talking aspects of law school. Like I love that part, but the exam part is the part that like sucks. And I hate the legal education model, I think it needs to change. I think it's really insane that your grades are based on tests. And I think it's like just an elitist profession in many other ways. But all that to say, I was working as a social worker I was working as a case manager. I don't have a social work degree, so you can't call yourself a social worker, but in a social work type position at a hospital with adults with mental illness. I was doing that for 4 years, doing a lot of like, I mean, you name it, we did it for, depending on who the client was, but a lot of stuff with housing, with the criminal justice system, with getting Social Security and Medicare and all that, the benefits, and then like just basic life management stuff. And like one of my clients needed help like socializing, so we would like have her practice small talk and like little like things like that. Anyway, so I did that for 4 years. During that time, I had been doing comedy before I got that job, and during that time, I mean, a really formative time of my life, just because of like, I was like 23 when I started that job, 27 when I left, and I saw a lot of crazy shit. And, you know, I was like walking in for my first jail visit to the state, to the up on State Road in Philadelphia jail. And I was just like, I am just a little kid. Like, what am I doing here? Like, how am I in charge of people's lives? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. But I ended up being really good at it. And I ended up being really, learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about people, and just like how to be professional. And I had a great mentor. And so I knew I didn't want to stay in the mental health field. And I felt like I was either going to do like, I'm going to move to New York and just try to do it, or I'm going to try to go to grad school and keep doing comedy, but be able to support myself with a better day job. And my brother's a lawyer. I do like logic puzzles for fun. And we were talking about, I had like bought a GRE book and I was like, this seems terrible. And I was like talking to him about law school, and he was telling me about the LSAT, and I was like, oh, I could do that. And that was it. And then I just was like, started the process of going to law school. I don't know at what point I was, if there was any point where I was like, oh yeah, this is like, you go to law school and there's people who are like, I've wanted to be a lawyer my whole life. Like, I saw the movie Legally Blonde and I was like, I'm meant to be in a courtroom. I don't feel that way. But what I will say is, I do think the puzzle aspect of the law makes me enjoy it. Like, that's what I like about, I want to do tax, right? And so I didn't expect to be like corporate. That was the other thing. I took like contracts and was like, am I about to go corporate? Like, what is happening? Like, I remember my first semester, and then I took tax my 1L spring at Temple. They let you do an elective out of like, it's like you pick from like tax, immigration, whatever, family law, IP, and like each 1L gets to take an elective. So I took tax. My brother told me to take it. He was like, you should definitely, you'll love it. It's like a puzzle. And it was, and it is. And so I think for me now, I see, especially with COVID, I mean, I think I will be truthful, before COVID, it was like my goal to just like, I was supposed to be in the HBO Women in Comedy Festival. I was like, if I can just like get my podcast, have enough listeners and get enough like income, generate some income, I'll feel better when I graduate law school, you know, not doing the whole big firm, whatever. I say that like it was like I had every option on the table. We all know how it really is, but yeah, but I don't know. So I guess throughout the experience, I feel like now I've learned enough that I actually do understand stuff when people talk to me, and like I want to be able to learn what it's like to, I just want to sit at my desk and do little puzzles. You know what I mean? Do my little puzzles. It would be nice to like earn some income and be able to like be a little, I'm 30. I'm like trying to get a little bit more financially stable, but I also feel lucky that up until COVID, I was like, as I was getting further in law school, I was getting further in comedy too. So I don't know what lies ahead, but I definitely, I am looking forward to working as a lawyer for a little while. I work in a law firm now and I enjoy it, and it'll be cool to be, I think, to have that experience, whether that's my long-term plan or not.
Got you.
Well,
yeah, that makes,
good luck.
Yeah.
That was, thanks for that beautiful well wish.
No, you'll be fine.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right. But no, I do think you know, it's a great day job to
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
You know, everyone, you know, well, especially at my stage of comedy,
Pays
like,
well.
you know,
Yep.
you need a day job. It's not like comedy's gonna pay my bills. And so it's
Mhm.
like having that like security and then kind of being able to, you know,
Mhm.
do comedy and kind of just do it. I mean, obviously you want to get as far as you can, but there's a lot less pressure when you have something stable right there. And it's like, you sound like you don't hate the law. Maybe you weren't like at 8 or 9 years old, I definitely want to be a lawyer, but it sounds like as you've done
Oh
it, you've
yeah, I
started
like
to
it.
like, yeah.
Oh, you like it? Actually, quick question on that.
Mhm.
As you say, you like the law,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So if you say
I was like,
money
is that a
wasn't,
trick question?
no.
He's
Yeah,
Li's an ex-lawyer, by the way.
yeah.
You're
So
not a lawyer anymore?
no. So,
I guess, do you
so
still have, are you certified though? Or
yeah, I still have my
okay, you still have
license.
your license.
I still
Okay.
do my CLEs and all of that
Where
stuff.
are you? Where do you live?
So I'm based in Houston, even though right now I'm in
Okay.
España. I'm in Spain. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I know just like,
Li lives his own
Now
life.
I feel guilty that we've spent the last hour and a half talking about me. I'm like, dude, I didn't
No.
even know you've been in Spain this whole time. What?
He's a private individual.
Or are you actually in America? Are you
Yeah,
in Spain?
with
Isn't
your,
that
with
right
your,
next
yeah.
to Belgium?
Belgium? Yeah, I know. It is right next to Belgium.
Yeah, no,
I
I know.
had some Belgian waffles the other day. Anyway.
Cute. That's really cute. Send me a bath bomb.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Li's in
Yeah,
Spain.
Amazon doesn't deliver bad bombs. Anyway, so so let's assume, you know, all things being equal, whatever lawyer salary is going to be, right,
Mhm.
is the same salary you're going to make as a comedian. What would you do?
Comedy. You don't even have
It's
to.
not- it- it's
I'm
not
insulted
even-
you asked. Frankly.
I asked because you said you love. I mean, I suspect
No, just that you like it.
I said I like it. Yeah.
No,
If you think
I-
that like and love are the same thing, be careful. Okay.
Yeah, I know. You're right. No, I was only asking because I was just curious
Mhm.
if since you know, if there was that curiosity part of you that regardless you just want to practice, you just practice, see what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, try out a new experience and yeah.
I mean, I think it kind of takes some of the pressure off, like, you know, I hope this episode doesn't come out and an interviewer hears it, but I think what's great about where my mindset now is like, I know that I'm going to be a lawyer for a little while, and I also have a lot of other goals. And so for me, the desire to move up to partner or to what, you know, like it's not, I don't need to be the best lawyer in the world. I don't mind being just like a normal, hardworking lawyer that's not a rainmaker at their firm. And I just want to be in a situation where I can feel confident in my like ability. I'd like to be able to move. Oh, my cat's here. Hello, Georgina.
You said Regina or Gina?
Georgina.
Oh, Georgina.
Here she is.
Hey, Georgina.
She's wonderful. But no, I'd like to. She actually is like Zoom famous from law school. Like all my professors know her because she loves Zoom. Like if she's usually awake, but she was sleeping. I don't know why you're doing this. But
I had someone on a Zoom call, like a very serious like work Zoom call, and she was talking and her cat just walked by her face, but she's so used to it, she didn't stop talking. Like she just kept analyzing some statute or something.
Yeah.
And we all were like, oh my gosh, like we all freaked out. She's like, what? I don't get it. Like the cat walked by her face, like the tail hit her nose and everything. She just didn't even
I can't even control it. Like I'm unfazed by it at this point. Like she does what she does, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying.
So you were saying,
I would like to be a lawyer. It'll be cool. It'll be cool to be a lawyer. It would be cool to learn more. I definitely, I really like tax law. And I know people laugh at me all the time. That's fine. But one of the things that I feel like helped me feel more confident in that was last semester I took corporate tax and like, you know, my grades have gotten better over law school, which feels nice because it just 1L just didn't click for me. And I as I've taken like tax courses and more statute based like business law courses, like I took secured transactions, which is like all UCC stuff. Well, I feel like the statutes, that kind of stuff is just works with my brain better. You know what I mean? Like whereas like I got a C in crim because like who cares?
Just
No offense.
litigation. Yeah. I'm the exact opposite, but I understand what you mean. Like certain people's brains work differently. Like I'm a litigator. The corporate stuff, it bores me. I don't care. And I think like I got into law because I like the aspect of writing, speaking, like all the reasons I'm in comedy. Like I basically just want to speak and write. And that's what I care about. I could care less about kind of like what the law, you know, the nerdy parts of the law, but like, you know, I like, those are things I enjoy doing. But
I think that if I had been in law school before I did comedy, I would be in the same position you are, Manny. I think I would want to do the litigation thing. My problem is that the first time I did an oral argument for like 1L writing class, my feedback was I was aggressive in a good way, which like I bombed so hard once that like I felt physically sick for days. That no, but like you can't scare me with an oral argument in front of a student judge. That I can truly say, like raising my hand in class, all of that does not faze me at all. There is like a superhuman confidence that comedy gives you, and people fucking love it. You tell people you do comedy, like I wrote my admissions essay about it, but early on I knew it was an asset. So like I feel like some comics will do the like they don't like advertise what they do. Like even comics who make their full living on stand-up will be like, oh, you know, I just like write. I'm a writer. But wait, I'm like, I'm a stand-up comedian. I do stand. Everyone should come to shows. I'm funny. This is my thing, you know. But yeah, they were like, you were aggressive in a good way, but you were a little too casual with the judge. And I was like, so what you're saying is I'm amazing at stand-up comedy. Aggressive and casual is really what I'm going for. But I'm in trial advocacy. I took intro to trial advocacy because I'm like a 3L and Temple has the best trial ad program. So I was like, it's pass fail, let's do it. And it's fun. My problem is I cannot help but write jokes into my arguments. Like I'll like direct exam. My professor is a judge. She's awesome. She like called me on it once. She was like, you got a little sassy with the witness on your direct exam there. And I was like, did I seriously? I don't know. I have no memory of that. Like I must
like, no worry. You killed for the jury.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. She's like, I am cracking up, but also he's guilty. No, so I think that if I were not already in comedy, I would definitely feel the same way. I think that once I started law school, not only was the like case law litigation kind of route not as appealing to me as the statutes. You should also know that I'm like obsessed with jigsaw puzzles and logic puzzles. So like it really is like that part of my brain that isn't fed from comedy necessarily in the same way, you know, like that I think is why I took to that more. Like I said, that's already like something I like, but I don't know, just the idea of learning a new way to perform and the idea of performing in front of an audience regularly where I'm not funny does not appeal to me anymore.
Well, like, the good thing is if you work at a firm, you're not really in front of you never go to trial really. So that doesn't happen really.
Well, I guess it depends on the kind of firm.
It depends on the firm. Like if it's a small firm and you might go to trial a lot, but you know, some of the bigger firms you don't really. But I will say, like, even just being in law and just like, I mean, I did some like oral advocacy stuff in law school and you know, just talking to people, you're used to talking to opposing counsel and partners, like comedy doesn't scare me. Like public speaking doesn't scare me as much as it would had I not done all that. It's like I filed things in federal court. Like I'm not afraid of like what 3 comics think at a bar or if I bomb in front of, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, of course, like I don't want to bomb and it doesn't feel good, but I'm just not as scared or intimidated when I've done very serious things. And, you know, so
I hear you. And no, it really does translate over. Like I was in a job interview and the gentleman was like, you know, not many tax lawyers hold eye contact. Like,
that is true.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That is very true.
Yeah, but we talk about like being in class. Like you know, even before Zoom, like, but Zoom especially has empowered me because like I just give no shits. Like every class for 1L year, I never got cold called because I was always raising my hand so much that when it was my turn to get cold called, they would skip me. Like no lie. Like I was just because that's how I learn. Like I like to be engaged in stuff. And also like on those days where no one read the case, I always do my readings too because I'm terrified of like being too lost in class. Like I don't always do them, but 1L especially, like I hated going to class unprepared because I was like, I'm not smart enough
to gamble
to
you play. Oh,
I'm just not smart enough
terrifying.
to bullshit. Like I will whatever. So like, I just
Yeah.
remember, like, you know, professors will call on me and like, I'll just like fuck up the facts or something. And it just doesn't faze me. Like cold calls where like, I'll make a joke too. Like I'll just be like, well, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's pass. And like,
you just get on the podium and do a set.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't even tell you how casual I am in class. Like it just doesn't faze me. So I feel like, and you know, like sometimes like I really will in my mind be taking one for the team because like no one's volunteering and I'm like, I'm going to fuck this up, but like whatever, I'll do it. Let me poorly recite whatever, you know, it's like the evening classes. No one wants to talk. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
It just, it really, I can truly say lots of things faze me, but just, it's not one of them. And I feel like that confidence is super powerful in comedy. And I feel like it makes sense to me that, you know, regardless of which comes first, they're helping each other. Like it helps you.
They do. Yeah.
Like,
I think they complement each other really well.
For sure.
Like I wish I could go back to law school after having done comedy. Like I know what you're like not caring because I'm like, why was I so scared to be cold called? I was also 22 and knew nothing about anything. But I mean, I just remember being like so terrified of cold calls. And now I'm just like, what was I don't understand what was the fear. And I guess the fear was like to just look dumb in front of people. But with comedy, you do that all the time. So it's just like, and you survive it. So it's just not that big of a deal. But
sometimes you intend for it. Like you intend to look dumb in front of people. Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's great. And I know we probably have to wrap up soon, but I will say with like, circling back to what we said about like working as a lawyer versus working as a comedian, like what I like about comedy. So like I wasn't paying my rent with comedy, but I was paying my other bills with comedy before COVID. Like I was working enough, especially like suburb shows. I was opening for people. Like I was making enough that I could pay my utilities and sometimes my credit card. Like I definitely felt like I sometimes buy weed. What? No, I would never say. Cut that out. I didn't do that. Wait, I actually really regret saying that, but whatever.
We can actually cut it out.
Yeah, can we? Okay, great. I wish I hadn't said that. No, but like I would definitely, I valued like being able to make a little bit of money in comedy and hoped that would be more. But what I'm getting at is that I like that they happen at different times. Like I could work during the day and go do stand up at night and I'm fine with that life. Eventually I would love to be just doing stand up. I would like to write a book. Like that's my dream world. It's like, I'm not famous, but I like write books that people read and buy and make money. And then I just tour and do stand up. Like that's my dream.
I want to write a book that people read and like New York Times bestseller. Yeah.
I just don't want to be like famous.
It's gonna be hard if you do too many of those.
I know.
Too many books.
Like if you write a book, I mean, you're a comedian, successful book writer. You can.
But I know what you mean though. You want to be like able to go on like a like an airport and not be
bothered.
Like you want people to know. Like
I don't want people to go back through my Facebook because it's all religious Bible verses. I don't want people to like go back through, you know what I mean? Like that's what I don't want to be famous enough that people give a shit about what I'm doing on the internet or like what I'm doing in like in an airport, in a grocery store. But I think even to just the degree of like, I want to just be myself and like, of course, make money doing what I like to do. But I don't want to be, I guess the older I get, the more I hate social media is really what I'm getting at. I just hate it.
This is a good segue to the last question I have for you.
Okay, yeah, and then I should probably go. It's really warm in this room that I'm sitting in. So no, I'm not even here. I have the door closed and I'm like, I'm gonna die in here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I keep like lifting up my hair. I'm like, it's so fucking hot.
This will be our first death on UBI.
No, not yet. I have to graduate first. Also, and feed my cat. But then after, okay, continue.
So yeah. I think last week or the last episode we talked about what makes us happy, right? Like I know. So but that's not what I'm going to ask you. What is your biggest fear? Just existentially, like, you know, from a philosophical point of view.
I want to be funny, but
This is heavy.
Biggest fear. Yeah, I don't. This is not where I thought the show would end on. Do you guys want to hear that story about my ex going to Belgium again?
Your
I'm
biggest fear
kidding.
is that happens again.
No.
You're like-
I mean, on a real note, like, I don't love death. I don't like to think about it. It freaks me out. But I don't think that's my biggest fear. I think that's my biggest fear.
I can go first.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So my biggest fear is actually not death. Like I used to think, like I think every day about death, and you know, I don't know if to the point where I started wondering if it, if I have issues just thinking about it, but I don't fear it. Like it's just like okay. So, but it's related to it somewhat. My big fear is, I may not have enough time to do what I want to do. So like just the things that I feel like I want to do, like I want to change this, I want to write this, I want to do whatever, I want to do creative stuff. Like my fear is, am I wasting too much time at doing this thing that, I actually don't really care about and not pursuing that. That is it for me.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah, I feel that too. That makes a lot of sense. I think for me, like one way to combat that is just to try to do things that like, if I died, like, am I happy to say like that's something I was doing? You know what I mean? Like if I died today, am I happy with what I'm doing? And if not, then I need to start doing those things. So I think about death a lot too, though, but it kind of like motivates me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna circle back and say mine is something happening to someone I love. I don't know why. This is maybe a little funny. I don't have children yet. I want to adopt children. I don't know if I actually want to like have children, but like physically, but I want to be a mom very much. I get scared that like something's gonna happen to my children that don't exist yet. Like I get I'll see something on TV. I think part of it is like I'm 30. My hormones are like, they think we're having a baby any day now, or they're trying to get me to, which is funny because I don't even know if I ever want to have a baby, but my hormones will get me to like the adoption lawyer quicker. I don't know. I'm like, sorry, I'm so hormonal. I'm going to see my lawyer. But no, I get like, you see stuff on TV, like a child dying or anything, and I like really get emotional, like the idea of losing a child. But yeah, I think just something bad happening to anyone I love, I definitely get nervous about that. Like my parents went on a trip a couple years ago, and my brother had to like talk me down because it just freaked me out. Like they go on trips together all the time. They were going to Europe together. My parents love to travel. Now that they're in their like, they're pre-retirement, but almost there, kind of like they've just before COVID were traveling everywhere with their friends. It was great. They deserve it. They've raised my brother and I was a handful. My brother's not, he's perfect, but I was a real handful. So I remember like the night before they left, like talking to them on the phone and being like, yeah, guys, have a great time. And getting off the phone and like just crying, like, oh my God, I feel like something bad's going to happen. I feel like, and calling my brother, and he was just like, nothing bad is going to happen. Like, they're okay. They're going to have a great time on the trip. And like, some of that's anxiety, but I think it's just that like, but they're both going together. And like, what if something, like those kinds of thoughts, or like, my partner, he'll bike to work and I'm always like, you need to text me as soon as you get there. Like, it's 15-minute bike ride, but it's in my head. I'm just like, but cars and things and like, whatever, we're in South Philly, but like, I think that's the kind of shit that freaks me out. Is like, I'm like really big into like safety plans. This is like, yeah, I'm just worried. I'm like a safety freak. Like I have like my location shared with people on my phone. Like, I just don't want to, I used to live alone too. So like, I get nervous about bad things happening to people.
Yeah, well, no, I feel that too.
Why is that the note we're ending on though? This was hilarious. We were funny.
Well, you never know with UBI. Let's see. Can I think of a joke about your parents potentially dying? What's funny?
No, please don't. It's not funny.
No, I feel that though. Like sometimes I will, especially my parents as they get older. You just try to have I try to have a good relationship with them and just try to remember, like, you won't be here forever. And I mean, if things go according to plan, they will leave before I do. I could die before they do, but so I try to just remember, it will happen at some point, but live it to the fullest while they're here. Trying to find some positivity.
No, I know. I can make fun of myself about other things I get anxious about. So like before I leave the house, I'm like really afraid that I'm very klutzy and like super like organized about certain things, but have that like one thought will get, if I don't write it down, like I have to write everything down is what I'm trying to say. Cause like I know what I need to do. I have a million things. But if I don't write each of them down, like I'll forget one thing and it could be an important thing. So I had before COVID, I swear COVID's going to make my like slight agoraphobia that much worse, because I used to be like super nervous to leave the house and had my like, I have a list on my phone of everything I need to check before I leave the house, because it would take, before I had the list, I would get halfway down to the subway. Like I would walk like 3 blocks and then be like, but did I turn my hair straightener off? And it's like, bitch, your hair is not even straight right now. Like it's curly. You did not even straighten it. But like, it was like those kinds of things. So what I do is like, just make lists of things. Cause otherwise today's to-do list is sitting right next to me. It includes studying, doing this podcast, cutting my toenails, which I did, recording my podcast later. And then I wrote J night because my boyfriend John is off work tonight and he's been working the last 3 nights. So I had to make sure, even though I knew Sunday nights we always hang out, that had to be on my to-do list just in case, like something, you know, because that's just how my brain works. You should see like all the post-its. It's like a beautiful mind in here.
That's great. Well, I think that's a much positive note to end it.
Yeah, everyone listen to my podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, shout out. Feel free to plug.
Posted.
Yeah.
At Keep You Posted Pod, Keep You with a U Posted Pod on Instagram, and then but it's the full word U for like the Apple Store and stuff.
Yeah,
it's all about. We talk about the news actually. So I do like legal stuff. Like I do segments on like. We have a segment that we do, SCOTUS Notice, where I'll give like Supreme Court intel, and I have like a secret passion for con law, so I do all my like
love con law.
So I've taken like a bunch of that. Like I've taken like all business courses, and then all of my like electives have been like political and civil rights, Supreme Court, like all this stuff.
Black people in con law, women in con law, religion in con law.
It's just like it kind of sucks for all you guys. So political and civil rights is literally just like if you're too religious, not religious enough, a minority, a woman, you know, whatever. Like
we haven't even gotten to trans yet, but you better believe that's just not going to be cool.
Well, no, Bostock versus Clayton County.
Is that
was
new?
a big win. Yeah, that was a newer one. A big win for extending
I vaguely remember
trans what is it? Go ahead.
Was this last year? Was this 2020?
Yeah. This will be on my exam and I'm not summing it up properly, but it was a case about, and Gorsuch wrote the opinion, but he was basically
I
just
remember
like,
that.
how do we not extend this to include gender identity? So
yes. Yeah.
So that was promising, but he also was probably like, but if you want to sneak in another bill to hamper that, by all means, I love when they do that, when they're like, we're not going to, you know, overturn Roe v. Wade today, but here's some ways that we might consider doing it. And you're like, you just wrote that in the opinion. You literally were just like, hey,
if a lawyer wanted to.
Again later.
I love how Biden recently came out. I was like, oh, I'm going to commission a study. I'm going to commission the commission to study adding to the Supreme Court. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys studying?
Just add someone. The Republicans would have added someone.
I know.
Like, don't give a fuck. Stop. Oh man. Well, we won't get too much in that. But anyway, listen. Thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun. I literally was like, I'm not going to talk to these guys for longer than an hour. You know, here we are. It's a good job. Good job being fun.
This was very fun. Had a good time. Listen, all the people out there, listen to Keep You Posted. I've listened to it.
Oh,
good
thanks.
stuff. I enjoy it. Hannah will keep you posted on the news. And do you have anything you're plugging? Are you doing any live shows or anything?
No.
Okay. Yeah. They're hard to come by, but
I'm not vaccinated yet. I
wouldn't.
I was asked to do, I've only been asked to do one indoor show or like a weekend of indoor shows. And I was like, I can't, just because like my parents hadn't been vaccinated at the time. Like it was pre people getting vaccinated. I know that I've got to be close, but at this point, like finals are coming up. I tend to not do shows much during finals, and then I'll be prepping for the bar. So hopefully once I'm vaccinated after I graduate, like that bar prep period, I won't be able to like go out to mics, but my hope is that like I can pop over to an outdoor show once I'm done studying for the day, like that kind of thing, just to like get my sanity back. But no shows. But hey, if you're listening to this and you're liked me, please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is @WandaCheeseburger, spelled traditionally, and I love more Instagram followers. What can I say?
Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, y'all be aight.
Yeah.